Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where, as ever, we're talking all things movies, TV shows, video games and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan as ever, and I'm joined once again by my beloved co-host, it's the Dan.
Hello.
Hello.
Ari Mara.
Getting very northern in this week's episode.
Yeah, clearly.
Although, re-listening to the Chernobyl episode that just went out today, as of when we're recording up on YouTube, there's a lot of me being unbelievably northern. Like, a lot more than I ever intended to.
It's that northern blood.
Yes, we are on episode 58, I think. Is it 58, technically?
I've lost count.
I've also lost count, mostly because some episodes we record and then they just sort of die midway through, so we're like, right, we'll just move on to a different number then.
Yeah, it's like we record it and then either Premiere decides it's not going to have it, Audacity decides it's not going to have it.
Or I decide I'm not going to have it.
Yeah, it's one of those three, if not all of them.
Well, according to the schedule, it's episode 58, so we'll just go with the schedule. Last week we spoke about Halo 3, first Halo game that we've discussed that we actually legitimately like.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's
Which
like
made
a big
now.
change
from like the first two games.
It absolutely did. This week we are delving into our little sub-series that I've dubbed The Long Take, which is mostly for our discussions and rankings and basically just wittering on, essentially.
Wittering on.
But of course, if this is the type of podcast that you enjoy, we're available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Podbean, Audible and Amazon Music. And we are also available on YouTube once again. We're still going through some of the previous episodes up on YouTube. As I say, the Chernobyl one has literally gone out as we're recording this. So I think this episode should be out on Friday, I think the 30th of June. And then for next week's episode, we should be fully caught up and everything will be going out at the same time.
Hooray!
Hooray! It's only taken 5-6 months.
Yeah.
Honestly, we
and that's
we
not even just to
like
upload one. That's just one episode that's needed to be uploaded. It's just taken 5 or 6 months to actually successfully upload to YouTube.
Yeah, I've literally got the rest of next week's episodes already in the queue. They're ready to go. All at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why I picked 8 o'clock in the morning, but there you go. But yes, as I said, this week we are talking about the top 5 film trailers. Slightly different kind of topic. You know, we've spoken enough about the films that we've watched. And back when we were doing news segments, we did certainly discuss a few trailers or two. Or more specifically, I talked about most of the trailers because you hadn't actually seen them, as I remember quite a bit.
Yeah.
Unless it was like a Halloween Ends trailer, in which case, of course, we both spoke about it. Don't worry, that film trailer isn't going to be on this list. Good.
I can't take it anymore.
Well, you see, that's the thing with this one. This is the one that I find the more interesting because this could literally be a trailer for an absolutely garbage film, but the trailer's really good. So I thought that'd be quite fun, probably similar to how we did the top 5 sort of like guilty pleasure films from a couple of weeks back. Because, yeah, the films aren't going to be good. Saying that, there's a few in here that are actually good films that just also happen to have really, really good trailers. Though it was an interesting discussion yesterday because my girlfriend had noticed that this was the topic for this week's episode, and even she was saying, how do you actually judge this sort of thing? Because for a lot of people, a trailer is purely just marketing and nothing else.
Yeah.
But to be honest, in this day and age, especially with the age of social media, like a trailer dropping is kind of like almost as big of an event as the actual film that it's actually advertising.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, you know, if it's a film that has had delay options, Flash.
How I know that was the first one you were going to go with.
I mean, come on, like, this thing has to hold the record for the most delayed film to ever hit the cinema.
I still maintain it might be no Time to Die, at least based on when it was filming and then when it actually released.
Well, yeah.
But then The Flash was announced back in 2014, so what the hell do I know?
Not much.
But I know very little. Hence why we're now doing film trailers as a topic of discussion for some reason. Just ran out of ideas, clearly. Funny. Hilarious. But yes, I figured this would be an interesting topic.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
So while it is the top 5, this is by no means 5 to 1. So like the last one we talked about is the number 1.
Yeah.
Because it's actually really difficult to rank a trailer, to be honest.
It kind of is. I was struggling with this. I mean, I will mention that, like, narrowing this down to 5 was incredibly difficult. Probably the hardest, like, top 5 I've ever had to really do, to be honest.
That is absolutely ridiculous. That this is the most difficult one.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about films. We're talking about film trailers.
Exactly. Like, again, the film can be absolutely atrocious. and be like, well, you know what? At least the trailer was pretty good. And there's a few of them here. Oh, yeah, there's a few. Shall we kick off with your first one, or would you like to go into your honourable mentions first? I don't know how you want to
I think we'll do the honourable mentions first.
Okay.
If anything. So I've only got 2 honourable mentions.
Okay.
I was going to think of a third one, but I think... Well, actually, I can think of a third one off the top of my head. So, first and foremost, King of the Monsters. Look, the film itself is absolutely rubbish, but the trailer looked really promising, to be fair.
I'm assuming we're referring to the very first trailer with Claire de Lune playing over the...
Yes. I thought it was somebody else, but yes, that one. Yep. It did actually look quite promising.
Yeah, that's funny, because I also have that as my first of the honourable mentions. Because, yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant trailer. I can remember watching that for the first time and just being, well, as it should be, in absolute awe. Just like, well, this looks too good.
Yeah, and the sad reality is the trailer was too good to be true, and the film turned out to be pretty rubbish, quite frankly.
Very mid.
Yeah, mid. It's alright. Yeah. Well, next honourable mention. This is a total 5 out of 5. But... this is Dark Knight Rises. Now, all I'm going to say is there is another Batman film in this list, right? But I was so torn between either this one or the other 2. That is to be confirmed shortly. I remember just watching it when it first dropped, and I was so hyped to see it. I never actually saw it in cinema, unfortunately. Yeah.
Disgusting.
Absolutely atrocious, but this thing just looked so cool, man. And, you know, you're not really sure who the villain is until you actually see Bane's, like, face. And it's like, you know, they're doing the whole, like, Tom Hardy Bane thing. It's like, oh, a punishment must be severe.
Exactly like that. He talks exactly like that.
Yeah. I would love, like, a behind the scenes if they've got, like, a behind the scenes, and it's just Tom Hardy and Batman on, like, a talk show, but as their characters. So you've literally got Bane on like, this couch, and you got, like, the interviewers just like, so who were you in this film, and what did you do? I broke Batman's back. And then you got, like, Christian Bale like, I think broken is a bit of an understatement.
You are aware that since you have suggested this as an idea, I now really want to do that.
Well, it's like the universe of Monsters Assemble again.
Oh god, yes, that was beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, I was really, really hyped for this film. So when I eventually got to watch it, I got what I wanted. Really, it's an absolutely fantastic film. But that is 2 of 3 honourable mentions. Last one is, I think it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's the second film in the Apes trilogy. Yes. Yeah, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. As in, like, maybe last year, watched the original Planet of the Apes film from the 70s, I think.
That'd be 1968.
1968, okay, so I was quite close, so, you know, late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's alright, but I much prefer this modern
definitely.
trilogy. Like, it's
Absolutely.
so cool, man. I believe I saw Dawn in cinema, actually.
I didn't see Dawn in cinema. I saw War. That was actually the second date I think me and my girlfriend was on ever.
Right.
Just happened to be the cry fest that was War for the Planet of the Apes, as it turns out. Like, even she was crying at the end. I'm like, okay, this is gonna work.
Yeah.
If she's
No, I
crying
was
at the
quite
CGI
close.
monkeys.
I was quite close to going with War, but I think because I saw Dawn first, which is heresy, because, you know, I'd rather watch the trilogy in order, but honestly, I just sort of took the opportunity to go see a film in cinema, you know? So,
Oh yeah, of course.
but yeah, again, it's a film that I really, really like, and the trailer was great, and it lived up to it, in my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's all the honourable mentions.
Okay. I'll go into mine and then we'll do the 5 to 1 thing. Funnily enough, the first one is Godzilla King of the Monsters.
You know what it is? I had a feeling we were going to have more than one of the same.
I'm actually quite. We might. I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I've been like really nitpicking, specifically like choosing which trailer it's supposed to be that like I'm actually referencing.
Yeah.
Because you know, there's never just one trailer for a film, heaven forbid. But mine was the very first trailer that dropped at Comic-Con 2018, I think it was, for King of the Monsters, again with the Claire de Lune music over it.
Yeah.
And it really pitches itself as like a very grand, like
Grand
epic
scale
kind of film. Yeah. Far bigger and more outlandish than the Gareth Edwards film, which for some people was more than enough.
Oh, yeah.
And you saw plenty of Godzilla in his decidedly bigger form. Brief hints at King Ghidorah and my boy Rodan.
My boy,
Didn't realize how much I love Rodan. That entire sequence in that film was brilliant. But I loved the trailer. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that the film is a bit. Meh.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame.
Sticking with trailers for good movies. We've got Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The main trailer that dropped just before the film's release. It's interesting with the Star Wars ones because another reason why I wanted to do this as a topic is because when the trailer dropped for the Phantom Menace back in 1998, I think it was. Again, there's no internet. People went absolutely mad. I mean, the concept of a trailer was completely changed because of that trailer.
Yeah.
I can distinctly remember a news story dropping where there was a Brad Pitt film playing at the time, and the trailer for the Phantom Menace was attached to that. And people would literally buy tickets for that film.
Yeah. Just to see
watch
the
the
trailer.
trailer to the Phantom Menace and then walk out. Imagine doing that now. Like,
That would be the biggest waste of money ever.
I mean, for the cinemas, they'll be absolutely fine. It's like, okay, we'll just leave the Brad Pitt film running because no one wants to watch this. We'll just play the Phantom Menace trailer on.
I don't like a
repeat, and I'm
cinema's
sure
going to
that
like make
everyone
more
would.
revenue from people wanting to see a trailer than the actual film.
It's mental, that though.
Yeah,
so
that
even
is
by
nuts.
today's standards, a Star Wars trailer is a big deal. This is not the only Star Wars trailer that's on this list at all. I can assure you on that one. But the Rogue One trailer was just really dramatic in a way that I really wasn't expecting. Because I think everyone was kind of skeptical on, well,
Yeah.
another Star Wars prequel.
Because, I mean,
And-
it's always concerning, especially with prequels. Because, I mean, Solo, who asked for it? Who asked for a Han Solo origin story? Nobody.
George Lucas did, and he got what he wanted.
Yes, he got a lot of
Silly
angry
sausage
fans.
George.
That's what he got.
Well, I mean, the Star Wars fans are always angry.
Oh, you're telling me. Fucking hell.
Yeah. But that final trailer that dropped, like I can remember me actually like kind of like welling up towards the end, like just like as like how like excited I was for it.
Yeah.
And I still maintain outside of The Last Jedi, I think Rogue One is the strongest Disney Star Wars film that like we've actually gotten for sure. Let me guess, you think differently.
Yeah.
do you hate Rogue One or do you absolutely love it?
I really like Rogue One, and I think it is better than Last Jedi.
One day we will get to Star Wars films. I don't know when that's going to be.
It's going to be like in, when we're old and grey, because, the Star Wars fandom is quite sensitive.
Quite?
Oh, you mentioned one tiny little criticism, and it's literally like a Death Star explosion. It really is.
But my final of the honourable mentions, and I can guarantee that Dan's going to glare at me or roll his eyes and think, oh, you gotta be kidding me. This is a trailer for a crap film, so it's fine. This is the final trailer for Transformers: The Last Night. Weirdly enough. Now, I've been a bit of an apologist for certain chunks of this film in the past. It's still a really terrible film, but I am absolutely not gonna trash it as much as other people do. But the way the marketing was done for that film was quite somber, as opposed to the absolutely chaotic action of the previous films. And yes, there is plenty of chaotic action in the actual film.
Yeah, it's a Transformers film after all.
Yeah, exactly. But the trailer doesn't have any dog sex or anything in it, so you wouldn't know. Instead, you've just got a giant planet that's about to crash into the moon and some other planetoids.
Right.
Sounded very very much like Palpatine there. Right. I see.
Something Transformers.
Something roll out.
Something robots. Something
lack of
planets.
Script.
Something Michael Bay.
Script. We've taken the Emperor thing a little bit too far now.
Yeah, we have. We better stop.
But yeah, despite every single film just clearly just really not being very good, at least the trailer fools you, which is kind of the point of a trailer. It's meant to fool you into actually getting you in to see it.
Well, yeah, that's, and I suppose that's why some trailers work so much better than others, because you get the trailers that just basically ruin the film. Or it just does no good job of basically saying, yeah, this film's going to be absolutely terrible, by the way.
Well, that is one reason why everything I picked is 21st century, because the ones in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are just terrible.
The oldest film I have is just, 2008 it's from, and we'll leave it there. And you probably know straight away what it is, because it's 2008 after all.
I've got my theory.
My theory. I hope it's not a thesis, because Christ, I ain't going through that Shin Godzilla stuff again.
I haven't got the trailer for Shin Godzilla, and the trailer ain't that good. But no, I actually admire sometimes more a really good trailer for a really bad film, because it did do its job. It actually sold you on. Last Night's worse. Way worse. Despite Peter Cullen doing his absolute best voice-wise. But yeah, those are my honourable mentions. We'll move on to Dan's first actual pick.
I was actually going to mention one of the later Terminator films, but I thought, yeah, screw that.
That's a good point. I quite like the first trailers for Genesis and Dark Fate, if I'm honest, but that's just because they're also quite somber, and they've got a really dark and depressing version of a pop song over it, as is just the running trend for the last 10 years.
Yeah. I will say, okay, now I know I said I had 3, but I do technically have 4 because you just reminded me of one.
It's Dark Fate, isn't it?
No, it is no Transformers film whatsoever. So, Black Widow, but with the really quite sad cover of a Nirvana song over the trailer of it. I think that's just brilliant, to be honest. It sets it up perfectly, I think. I mean, it's not a perfect film in any way necessary, but I really quite like the trailer. No, it's not.
Yeah, to be honest, I do remember quite enjoying the trailers for what they were.
Yeah.
Share out the film.
Yeah, but anyway. Anyway, starting off with number 1. It's a film from 2008. Regan's just made a very cheeky grin there.
Because I really...
Quite similar to what a character does in this film, actually.
Oh. Oh, okay. We haven't got the same one. It
is by one Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan. Christopher semicolon.
Christopher semicolon. No, it is, of course, The Dark Knight.
I don't ever actually remember seeing the trailer for The Dark Knight. I mean, I have seen it since, but I've got no memory of it.
I don't... Well, again, I was kind of too young to really notice the trailer for it, so I had to kind of revisit the trailer, but look, I absolutely love this film. Like, this is, to this day, this is DC's best endorsed film, full stop. Like, I mean, I know the whole Nolan trilogy is near perfect, but this is just an absolute kingpin of a DC endorsed film.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I just love the little Joker narration you get over it as well. And you get, like, the shots, and it doesn't ruin it in any way at all. I mean, there's a lot of action sequences, but in no way does it spoil anything major.
Yeah.
You're just kind of showing that, oh yeah, this is going to be like one of those, like, really gritty action films, and I'm more than happy with that. And, I mean, you know, you get glimpses of Heath Ledger's Joker, you get, obviously, quick flashes of Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know, he's just doing various things. And it's just great. It's such a fun trailer, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there to say? It's The Dark Knight after all. You know, it's like one of the
exactly.
most, like, it's got to be in like Letterboxd's like top 50 whatever films, unless the algorithm has changed.
I think it is.
I was gonna say,
I think it's still in like, yeah. I'm still mad that we didn't actually discuss the Dark Knight trilogy last year.
That kind of just dissolved.
It did, well, it was because of bloody Comic-Con, really. They just had so much stuff and like, oh, balls.
Balls.
Like, fine, we'll talk about Comic-Con because enough stuff that's getting announced that we're probably going to hate, but it's fine.
Well,
maybe next year.
Oh, maybe next year, alright.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, like, trying to figure out the schedule for next year is already really difficult.
Well, I think you should prioritise it, but hey-ho.
Already got another priority that technically has already been referenced. I'm not going to reference again until next year. Subtle foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Monsters.
Very subtle.
I will also go with my 2008 film. So this is the main trailer, or it's either the teaser trailer or the main one. I'm never sure. I'll give context as to why, but it's the trailer for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I had the DVD box set of the trilogy. I didn't have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
As did I, actually.
And whenever you played any of the films, the first trailer that would pop up was for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And that's the one that like opens with like brief shots of the previous three, where it's like he like triumphed over the armies of evil. He saved the
it's like the journey so far or something like that.
Yeah, and just that alone, it just really gets like your heart pumping because you're just reminded of the previous three films.
Oh yeah,
nostalgia bit. And then it says, coming on May 22, the adventure continues, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Because the film itself ain't great. We are going to, of course, probably reference Kingdom of the Crystal Skull next week. I am probably going to rewatch this at some point this week, because I haven't watched it for years. I've also got it in 4K now, so I might just hurt my eyes even more.
So the very clean Russian soldiers are going to look even cleaner.
They are freshly laundered straight from Russia. And they never get dirty. But then again, neither does Harrison Ford, neither does Shia LaWai.
Shia LaWai?
Shia LaWai. I don't hear some, to be honest, in the film, but you know. But again, the whole point of a trailer is to sell you on seeing the film. And the film itself ain't great.
So did you see it in cinema?
No,
neither did I.
No, Dial of Destiny will be the first one I'll see, which is ironic because it's the last one.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a few instances where I think some of them have come up on like screenings at like independent cinemas and stuff. I would adore to see The Last Crew see it though, like similar to seeing Aliens with you a couple months ago.
I think it was. It's kind of like what they do with like other major films. I know they did like the anniversary of The Godfather and stuff like that. So like cinemas
they did.
from across the UK put it in cinema. I think they're probably going to do it with like a big sort of anniversary of one of the original trilogy films. Maybe I'd definitely see. I mean, any of them I'd like because I like all of them.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if Last Crusade ever got on there, like I wouldn't even hesitate. You know.
No. But yeah, the trailer absolutely stole it for me, and it's still personally one of my all-time favorites. It just works so well.
Yeah, I do remember that box set actually, because it's every like one you put in, you just get the trailer for it, and it does hype you up for it. It really does.
It does. And then like as soon as it ends, you're like, oh yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
and it wasn't good.
Oh, that's reminded me.
I'll just watch the trailer again.
I'll just
and
pretend.
Then the cycle continues.
Yeah.
Next one, Dan,
is another DC endorsed film. Actually,
is it Batman?
No.
Yes. Oh.
Wow. Oh, we're not doing blooming Owen Wilson as friggin' Patrick Bateman again, man.
No, we're not doing that.
No, we're not.
Out of spite.
Why isn't it possible?
Stop it.
Next up is a film from 2019.
Is there a DC film from... Oh, yeah. I'm doing so well. Like, was there a DC... Oh, yeah, there was.
Yes. Starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes. It's, of course, Joker.
Otherwise known as a disgusting, offensive film that's just awful in every shape. Oh, fuck off, everyone.
Jesus, that was a lot of repressment.
I've had enough to say on that film to people who really hate it. I'm just out there thinking, you just...
I think some people are so petty with it. I'm just like,
oh, yeah.
Good for you. Now, why don't you just go shove your head back up your arse end?
That's a bit aggressive, Dan.
It's not.
Are you sure you're not being inspired by like a homicidal clown? Are you going to go and burn down Gotham? Are you going to go and shoot Bruce Wayne's parents randomly? If we're going to be really nitpicky, like, oh, suddenly he's there.
I've looked forward to this ever since the trailer dropped for it, and I mean, I watched the trailer maybe like 5 or 6 times because of how hyped I was for this thing. I didn't see it in cinema, sadly. I just
Oh my god!
I really wanted to, but I kind of just forgot about it. Sadly, yeah, I don't know how, but you know. But I mean, it's something I've always wanted DC to do. Just have a standalone film dedicated to possibly your most notorious villain out of your whole comic series.
Yeah, you see, that's interesting because I'm like the exact opposite. Like, I thought I never want to see that, but then what they do with this here, I'm like, actually, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because, especially with the Joker, his origin is so deliberately murky that, of course, you could do it like this because you could just do it however the hell you want. You could have
there's
falling into like a
room
vat of
for
acid.
It. But I've never liked that, well, you know, the Tim Burton Batman where he basically falls into a like tub of acid and he, you know, his skin is bleached, and kind of the same in Suicide Squad.
Sure.
But with this, it's like this whole journey of psychological trauma and just abuse of all kinds. It's dark as hell, but that it works so perfectly.
I think that's why people didn't like it. Because we're seeing it from the perspective of the villain.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
I mean, why the hell not? Like, there's no rule to it.
There isn't.
And if it's making you uncomfortable, that is kind of the point.
Yeah, I think that is the point of the film.
Like, realistically, the whole point of the film is do not give up on those who are lost. And yeah, it's very much like a really like dramatic cautionary tale. Like, we're not saying like if you don't help them, they're going to turn into the Joker, but it's just a case of just being careful.
Yeah.
And I think bolting that onto a comic book film and having such massive discussions over it, that's brilliant, frankly.
Yeah. I mean,
It really is.
It's one of my favorite films of all time. I've watched it quite a few times, but it's absolutely incredible. It's heartfelt, I think, because you do actually feel for the villain. Because again, it's centered around it, and it's, you know, people who say, well, you shouldn't do that with the villain, but I don't see that in a rule book anywhere. At the end of the day, so you're just being petty, really. You're just trying to just put other people off it. But I'd say watch it, because this is just something else, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the score
definitely.
for it, I mean, like, I know we're not obviously talking about the film, but the trailer, you know, with that little bit of score over it, it just sets it all up, and it's just perfect.
No, we'll definitely be talking about the sequel next year when it gets released in, I think it's October or something, October 2024, so we will definitely reference the first Joker film, just because, well...
Why not?
We didn't have... Yeah, exactly. Sticking with DC on my end, we've got a film from 2012. It's also one that Dan's already referenced. It's the third trailer for The Dark Knight Rises. Yes, specifically that one with Deshi Basra playing over like the second half of it. Because no offense, that music is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it is.
And I do really appreciate when trailers actually have the music from the actual film, or at least the score, in the trailer, because you never know until you actually see it. Like when I mentioned in the honorable mention for The Last Night, that has bits of Steve Jablonski's music playing in it, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's one of the few really high praises I can give that film. And it's interesting with The Dark Knight Rises, because I didn't even know the film existed until looking on IMDb and seeing the poster, and it references Batman saving Gotham from the threat of a nuclear weapon, and I'm sat there thinking, I wasn't expecting that after The Dark Knight, if I'm completely honest.
We're kind of stepped up a notch.
Yeah, and then literally as I see that, I then see that this trailer drops, so this is the first stuff that I'd seen from that film.
Yeah.
And I'd only seen The Dark Knight for the first time like a year beforehand, because I didn't see it in cinemas. In fact, I deliberately didn't watch it. Again, this is me as like a little kid. I didn't watch it because it didn't have Batman in the title. For some reason in my head, I was like, well, I'm not going to bother.
I don't know how many trailers there are for Dark Knight Rises, but I distinctly remember the one where you've got like the little kid singing the national anthem on the field. Oh
yeah, I think that's one of the first ones actually, or it might be the second one actually.
It's either the first one or the second one, but I think it's that one and the one that has the this.
Yeah, that for me is still my favorite one. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I can also distinctly remember it having such an impact on people that someone actually remade that trailer in Grand Theft Auto 4.
Oh my
using
God.
like it's actually done surprisingly well for what you actually have. Like again, surprisingly well done. Like even having like the moments in the trailer with like the bridges blowing up.
So it's not The Dark Knight Rises, it's Nicol Bellic Rises.
I think it is literally titled that.
That's genius. That's absolutely genius.
I'll have to send you it after recording this one, because it's just from today's standpoint, it might not be too greatly well done, but it's actually quite good. And yeah, I mean, any trailer for like a DC film, usually for the most part, the trailer's going to be quite good.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, next we're going on to number 3. Again, it's not ranked because it's impossible to.
Nah.
This is a film that was actually mentioned on our last Graveyard Chit Chat episode.
Oh.
Give you a bit of time to just think there.
I'm trying to remember which films I even referenced. I mean, or even you. I can't even. Oh God, I don't know which one.
It's from 2014.
Bugger.
Oh, I swear to God, if we've got the same one again.
I can confirm that if this is what I think it is, I haven't got it on here.
Godzilla.
Yeah, I haven't got it on here.
Okay, that's fine.
Which is interesting. I was very close to be honest. I'm assuming you're referring to the very first trailer that's mostly the Halo jump.
I was more referring to the one where you've basically got the narration of whoever Bryan Cranston plays about, it's not an accident, you've awoken something.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Seeing that trailer and then seeing it in cinema was just an experience I'm never going to forget. That trailer just hyped me up for it. I mean, I never ever really intended to watch it, but then after seeing the trailer, I was just like, yeah, I've got to see this now.
To be honest, I think I was the same. Despite, watching the Roland Emmerich one on repeat when I was younger, I knew it wasn't a very good film, but as a kid, it's like the greatest thing you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
So seeing a decidedly more serious take on Godzilla, but from the Americans, I'm like, okay, I'll give it.
I think it's well, you being the diehard Godzilla fan, you're always kind of terrified for the American version of Godzilla.
I wouldn't say diehard. I just mean I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah, you have seen a lot of them.
Too many.
Yeah. I mean, everything about this trailer, it just sets it up perfectly, but it never really shows you a proper glimpse of Godzilla, I think. I mean, obviously it's Godzilla, but you never see like an absolute backdrop shot of him. But I really like how you're just going from, I suppose, nuclear accident, and the next thing you know, you've got this city, and you pan over the city, and it's just in absolute tatters, and you're like, oh, that was smooth.
Oh, so actually, so it might is this the trailer that actually opens with the with like the plane that's like crashed into the field and there's a load of traffic and stuff? Is it that one?
I honestly just remember Bryan Cranston's narration over it.
Okay, fair enough.
So, I mean, there might be multiple ones, but
I think it's that one, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I distinctly remember the most. I mean, Bryan Cranston's great in it, and him just doing that, like, this was no nuclear accident. I'm like, oh.
And it's just like, and whatever the hell it is, it's going to send us back to the Stone Age. I'm
yes,
like,
I absolutely
that
love
is too
that
good
line.
a line.
It is.
Well, yeah, because it's cheesy as hell, but it
works so well, though. Nah, I mean, it's great, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of like King of the Monsters, although King of the Monsters is not exactly a great film. The trailer sold me on it really well, but with this, I mean, this lived up to its expectation fully. I mean, I haven't ever downrated this. This has always been a 5 out of 5 in my mind. It is an absolutely impeccable film in my mind.
Oh, for sure.
And you do get a lot of people slating it. Well, most of it about pettiness again. Like,
it's more funny listening to the American fans complain about it, and I'm like, you clearly haven't watched the Japanese ones, have you?
You haven't seen Godzilla fist bump in the air. You haven't seen Godzilla do a tail sweep.
I mean, he does some stuff with his tail in this one that's pretty awesome, to be honest.
He does, yes. He also does things with his very radioactive... oh, God, that could be taken out of context so badly.
He does some things with his breath that's quite dramatic. I'm like, Dan?
He does some things that just leave it right there and let the rest be imagination. Let the rest be to your imagination, folks.
Yeah, I mean, like, to those that keep on complaining about a severe lack of Godzilla in this film, if you want, like, a giant fire-breathing lizard and you want it on screen all the time and it's still to be badass, just watch the first Shrek film.
Where the dragon somewhat actually feels more.
And it's awesome!
Yeah.
It's a pretty awesome dragon. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually quite annoyed with myself that I didn't put Godzilla in like the actual main one, but yeah, whatever.
Fun fact, I knew that this was going to have to be on the list as well.
Fun fact, I assumed it was going to be on your list.
I was just like, well, we talked about it recently, why not mention it again?
Well, exactly, why the hell not? Next up, this is one that this is interesting actually. So last night when I actually had a playlist on YouTube of my favorite film trailers from like a couple of years ago, and I've just been like constantly adding to it all the time. And as I was going through them, I was looking at the suggested ones, and one of them, this is the one I'm going to talk about, was the very first trailer for Avengers Infinity War. When I actually checked it, I seen that I'd actually disliked it. at the time because I was very much in a phase where I really didn't care for Marvel again. Like, I just went through that again. And I remember distinctly saying, I think Thanos looks like crap. Like, visual effects, I thought it looked naff. And it's interesting because going back to it, I mean, first of all, just like look at the view count on that. It's like 250 million views or something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's like the most watched film trailer of all time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it
held. I think it still actually holds the record for like the in terms of a view count. You know, like absolutely hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah. Obviously, next up is Fast and Furious 10, of course. No, it's not. It's a funny trailer, that one. But it was interesting because at the time when I first watched it, I thought, I don't care. I'm not interested. And it was literally, it's actually funny. So a bit of insight into me and Dan's life at college. For the in our first year, there was another lad that we were in with called Sam, who then left for the second year. And he'd asked me if I wanted to go and see Infinity War because he was interested. It was literally the week before, so I was like, okay, I'll watch the trailer again. And then something just clicked for some reason. I don't know why. I watched the trailer again. I was like, this is actually making me really excited to see it. It's weird because I didn't have that reaction when I first watched it.
Yeah, so it's obviously taking
I was just like,
another rewatch of the trailer to actually make you think differently.
Yeah, and it's just quite funny how there's a lot of it that isn't actually in the film. It's like deliberate misdirect.
Oh yeah,
which is
I'm smart considering you know what Infinity War is.
Well, yeah, I think it was done deliberately. Same with its sequel, whereby the trailers did a really good job of not spoiling like the main plot of the film.
Yeah.
Like even going so far as to like digitally remove some of the Infinity Stones from the gauntlet so that you wouldn't know at what points Thanos had gotten the actual stones.
Yeah.
I'm sure we spoke recently when news broke that there was going to be like a weird lawsuit thing when it came to film trailers. That I think stemmed from, I think it was a Danny Boyle film that's initially had Ana de Armas in it, and then it was cut, and then people sued the studio because they wanted to see the film based on her, and so something was coming up where it looked like, when you do a film trailer, you're not like any footage that's in it, you have to use in the final film.
Oh right.
Which I thought, what a load of garbage that is.
Yeah, because
no
what
offense,
if you've got a film that you kind of have to reveal some scenes in which is going to spoil it? Like, what's wrong with just misleading? I mean, horror trailers do that. What's wrong with that? And most of them pay off really well.
Yeah, and Halloween Ends did it perfectly because it pitched a completely different film.
It really did. You know what else it pinched?
Evil is different tonight. As it turns out, according to the trailer.
Evil takes a cardboard character tonight.
He does. We always seem to slate that film every single time. I don't know
We're
why
never ever going to let loose up. We're never going to be nice to that film. We're never going to be.
Yeah, but no, I like the fact that this film had to misdirect people because it's so big. People are just completely unsure as to what's going to happen, so just misdirect them even more so that when they go in, they've got absolutely no idea.
Oh yeah,
and that's so well done. And it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love it. And again, complete shift. Because at first I was like,
I think it's Endgame. I'm positive it's Endgame, but I mean, you know, when it's always funny to see the people's reaction when Captain America is obviously worthy of Thor's hammer, and you just see the hammer go to him, and like the reaction people got off of that. You know, I guarantee that wouldn't have been in the trailer because, you know, you really want to hide stuff like that. But, you know, it's nice just that these two Marvel films have just the greatest payoff ever. I mean, they're both absolutely phenomenal films.
Yeah, we will be talking about Endgame next year, courtesy of Take Two Reviews, because that's 5 years old. Because we have missed discussing Infinity War this year, just because, again, with scheduling and stuff, there was just no way I could plot it in anywhere. But Endgame we're absolutely discussing.
Yeah.
I'd very much like to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Next is a film from this year.
Wow, that's okay. I'm surprised. Oh, okay. I think I can take a punt.
Okay.
Does it have a masked figure?
It does.
Yes, it does.
It has several masked figures.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it Ant-Man 3? Because that technically has masked figures in it. Dan hates me now.
Mm-hmm. No, it is, of course, Scream 6 or Scream Vi.
That's interesting.
Yeah, look, I absolutely love the Scream franchise, so upon just waiting for Paramount to put out the trailer for this, I mean, like, you know, I was literally refreshing their feed whenever I could.
Of course you were.
Because, you know, they said, oh, new trailer's coming, by the way, so I was just like, refresh.
Mm-hmm.
So when it
Is
finally dropped, the very first trailer, I mean, I know they've done other trailers as well, but, you know, the very first one,
to be honest, the
one.
very first one was great. I really liked that one.
I mean, I just really like how it's not in Woodsboro. Like, we've actually gone out of Woodsboro. We're now in New York City. You know, it's New York City, new rules.
And it's even safer.
No.
No, it's not.
No.
Who on earth would think that?
No. And it did such a great job of concealing the killers. Obviously, you know, we know the Scream franchise for the killers. You know, the reveal in the end. But there's not just one killer. There's, like, 3 of them.
Spoilers.
But I mean, if you haven't seen Scream 6, you've been living
from
under
months
a
ago,
rock.
so it's fine.
You've been living under a friggin' rock.
Yeah.
You've been living under that robe, clearly, in that shrine. And I think the thing that surprised me about the trailer was actually the shrine, because when you first see that, you're like, what's going on here? Like, you don't see the masks and stuff like that, you just see the robes, but you instantly know that it's, you know, because Courtney Cox says it's a shrine, and you're just like, huh. So we have somebody who is absolutely obsessed with Ghostface. Oh, that can't be good.
Yeah, I still think in the trailer it still sounded unbelievably cheesy. Like, it was like steering a little bit too far, but then obviously watching the film,
it's kind of like
a little bit better.
With the, I think it might be in a different trailer, I'm not so sure, but it's when Courtney Cox is in the apartment and Ghostface breaks in and she gets the call and Ghostface is like, well, there hasn't been one like me.
Yeah, I think that was the second or third trailer, actually, I think.
I mean, all the trailers
I'm sure, like, ends with her.
For Scream 6, I've loved. But, I mean, that first one, it just had me hyped.
Oh, definitely.
So when tickets came available to buy it, to see it in cinema,
just like, bing.
With the double bill, I was like, screw it, I don't care if it's going to get me late, I don't care. I'm going to just go see it. Get home at like 11:30 at night, I'm like, worth it.
Lightweight.
But, I mean, it's brilliant, and I look forward to whatever they decide to do next, because I'm sure the trailer's going to pay off for it. Hopefully.
7 creams.
7 creams. Yeah.
Okay. Next up for me is literally a film we have just mentioned. The final trailer for Avengers Endgame. Again, very similar reasons to Infinity War. Very good use of misdirect, but also really good at building anticipation. Like, it opens very somber, similar to some of the other trailers that I've referenced. I do like a somber trailer. Like we see these characters trying to reel from the events of Infinity War. We've got the weird sort of like black and white / red stylized sequences from the previous films.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Yeah,
which they do look quite good, to be honest. But also the fact that as far as I know, for the trailers for the film, they only ever showed, I think for the most part, only a few minutes of the final film. I mean, hell, even the very first trailer only has footage from the first 20 to 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
This one has bits from later, but you would never know, to be honest, because it's so well done. You don't know how it's going to end.
Again, it's a very well constructed trailer because it's not revealing anything, and obviously, you know, Avengers Endgame, we all know what happens.
I don't.
I don't. I'll talk big
forgot.
about it, but I won't.
I blipped.
I blipped. God, imagine like recording an episode, and God forbid there's like some mad Tyson that actually does that, and you just turn into a pile of dust while recording an episode. How awkward that must be.
I believe it'll still be a live episode, and it's still going.
Yeah, but it's going to sound like an ASMR video because all you're going to hear is just dust going through the mic.
Yeah. God damn it. But no, the trailer for that one, again, it's quite interesting because similar with the Infinity War trailer, the first drop with this was also at a point where I was also kind of sick with Marvel again, but it was because of the stuff regarding James Gunn being sacked.
Yeah.
Which I still maintain was complete garbage. And it wasn't until, I think it was just before this film actually dropped, that it was announced that he was rehired. So then rewatching the trailer again, I'm like, yeah, okay, I am actually interested. I want to see how it's all going to end, how the final film in the MCU is going to end. I'm still waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
Endgame. As opposed to, well, actually, we should actually call it Avengers Long Game, because I still haven't ended it yet.
Yeah. The very, very long game.
Extremely long game.
Yeah. The never-ending
that's my
game.
penultimate pick. Yeah, the
never-ending game. All right. Now we get on to another horror film from,
of course,
2022. I promise it's not that one. It's not that one. I would never, ever do that.
You would never, ever lie to me.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Okay, the only other one I can think of. For those who are listening, because everyone is, I just did a bit of a smile, so I'm assuming it's for The Menu.
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
The Menu.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about Smile. Oh my god.
No,
I'm so good at this, just like without realising.
I was quite close with Smile, but I thought The Menu was just a bit better, to be honest.
I don't remember watching the trailer for The Menu. I think I just saw a couple of images and stuff.
Yeah, I only watched it once, but it's a very well constructed trailer again, because you go in so blind, because you have no idea what the hell this film is about, because, you know, it starts off all happy and jittery. It's like, oh, they're going to a private island for a private feast, and then, like, it just does that whole classic horror trailer, blank space, and then darkness. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, I present The Mess. I'm like, oh. And then you've got Anya Taylor-Joy running away from something. You're like, this looks fun.
Again? She's doing that a lot now.
Yeah. If it's not through the forest, it's on a private island.
Trying to think what else she's actually run away in. Well, she's running away in The Northman as well. She probably did it in the Super Mario Brothers movie as Princess Peach with a staff or something. Which I didn't realise that was Anya Taylor-Joy either, which I just find is quite funny.
Yeah, I actually saw the trailer for this in cinema, and it had me hooked for it. It really did. And I never actually got round to seeing it in cinema. Yeah, I know, it's quite weird, because I was going to go with something from Jordan Peele, actually, but I thought...
Oh, Nope.
No, I wasn't actually going to go with Nope. I was going to go with a film called Us.
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, you gotta.
We'll get to it eventually.
You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. But this is just... When you see the trailer, like, it really throws you off, because, again, you have no idea who or what is the villain in this film. You know, it could be some gigantic lobster, for all you know.
So it's a spin-off of of a film like Tusk.
Yeah.
In this case, it's Claw.
Lob.
Lob.
But I mean,
Stir.
I was really, really keen on watching it and didn't actually get to see it in cinema, but then it came on Disney Plus, and I was like, right, screw everything.
Randomly.
I'm just, like, of all the films you put on Disney Plus, the menu.
Well, yeah, it was that and Barbarian. I was like, why the hell is this on Disney Plus?
Yeah. Like, Disney,
Like,
what are you thinking? Both pretty messed up films, but I mean, it's a very, very good film, and again, it's a trailer that lived up to it. Went in totally blind and was very satisfied in the end. And that's all my trailers.
Yeah. Got my final one, which is quite poetic, really. So going back to the beginning of this episode when I discussed when trailers became major.
Monsters Unleashed.
Wrong podcast, Dan. I did so well to not reference that on the last episode.
Oh no, you did not. You absolute liar.
Did I?
You referenced it.
Did I actually reference it?
Yes.
Balls.
You did reference it.
I'm annoyed now. Man, I've spent the last couple of days saying to myself, I didn't reference it. I'm doing really well. No, I clearly did. Crap. No, so as mentioned at the beginning of the episode, when it comes to film trailers being an event, it wasn't until the Phantom Menace trailer dropped that it really just saw a complete shift.
Yeah.
And since then, for like a lot of big blockbuster films and whatnot and mainstream stuff, or The Menu, which I actually really appreciate. You actually went for like a film that's actually quite low key for a trailer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. But in reality, I think the trailer I had to go for, I could technically say this is number one, really, because there's never been an experience quite like it when the final trailer to Star Wars The Force Awakens dropped, and was absolutely mental. Like, the reaction was just insane.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like the very first teaser that dropped like over a year before the film's release, which you don't see now because I think it's a bit difficult to market a film a year before its release, because, well, similarly, actually Godzilla King of the Monsters did that, and by the time the film was actually released, I think the anticipation was a bit but I think with Star Wars it was different, because it was like, oh, it's not George Lucas, right? Just sign me up. That's
sign me up.
And it's like, oh, you've got Harrison Ford back. Excellent. You can sign me up. Oh, you've got all three of them. Excellent. Sign me up again. Just sign me up all of the times. But that final trailer that drops, and it's got like the massive like epic version of the Star Wars theme. Not obviously not done by John Williams.
Yeah, it's not like absolutely overbearing, but it's
no.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I think as well, what that the trailer is still quite misleading, because you still don't really know who the lead of the film is. Obviously, in retrospect, it's quite obvious that it was going to be Rey, but I know for a lot of people it was supposed to be Finn, or at least they assumed it was Finn. Even by my standards, I kind of wish it was. But it did a really good job at just not spoiling anything. I think there's only one shot in the trailer where you see Daisy Ridley crying at one point, but otherwise no spoilers at all. I'm going to briefly pause because I think Dan missed all of that.
Oh no, I heard all of it, just in sections.
Oh, you heard all of it. Okay. But overall, I think the trailer's still absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think I can't say that I was like super duper hyped for it, because I was kind of just like out of Star Wars by that time. You know, I'd like watched the original trilogy to death. I'd watched the prequels to death, and when this came out, I was like, yay.
Well, you see, that is another reason as to why I'm very particular when it comes to the Star Wars stuff that we cover on this podcast, because you're nowhere near as big a fan of it as me.
Yeah.
So stuff like The Mandalorian, fair enough. Even Ahsoka, I think we're going to cover it in October.
Oh yeah, I'm very keen to do
drops.
that one. Yeah.
But again, with the films, it was so difficult to even agree to do that. So, I mean, I know that initially we were going to, and then even you were like, because it'll probably just be a lot of rinse and repeats.
It's alright.
And obviously that's at least up until you get to episode 9. But at least the anticipation for The Force Awakens was absolutely there, and it was the rare time I actually didn't mind watching reaction videos to the trailer, because just seeing other people get as excited as everyone else is, and even some people like tearing up towards the end.
Don't take my tone for it being that I absolutely dreaded it, but
I was. Well, to be honest, I think all of us were still a bit.
Yeah, we were quite
Disney Star Wars,
unsure.
is it going to work?
Yeah, but I was pretty excited for it in a way at the same time, because I was like, it's just actually nice to have something that isn't done by George Lucas for once. Like, it's good that he's just away for this now. Like, no disrespect to the guy,
now,
but we kind of can't have an entire franchise with this guy helming.
Yeah, it's interesting that now, after the fact, everyone wants him back.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think the people saying that, like, you absolutely were just horrible to him for years. Like, you've got, like, truly awful. And to be honest, you get that with the new films as well. Like, some people are just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
They really are. But at least we have this trailer, and it's still, like, even by today's standards, it's still brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's thoroughly enjoyable, and it did its job. I think it did hype
exactly,
because I mean, this was a while. I mean, everybody was so used to like the original trilogy. Because everyone pretty much likes every single film in that trilogy. I don't know one person who hates it.
I know people who haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Still, it's always weird.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're talking to someone who's not big on films, then of course they wouldn't have seen it.
So when the trailer dropped for this, it's been years since a Star Wars film. You've always got that worry of like, well, they've kind of just lost, the way, really. But in reality, it's revolutionising it, because you've got to do stuff different at the end of the day. Even with Star Wars, you have to do things different. You can't just do like Empire Strikes Back Part 2. You can't. It's not going to work.
And I think just for like one final bit of trivia on this before we end this episode, this was my girlfriend's first Star Wars film. Randomly.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you clocked in on the 7th chapter? Like, who the hell starts a book at the 7th chapter?
I know. Like, I was about to say that. It's like starting a book but going straight to chapter 7.
Yeah. But no, that is. I mean, I suppose that maybe that is my pick for the number 1 trailer. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, all of them are great. Even like the honorable mentions are really good.
Yeah.
But like you, this is a very difficult list, but I certainly enjoy doing it. And yours were interesting, and some of them were doubles. I'm like, yes, get in. But yes, that has been our discussion on the top film trailers. We'll say top film trailers, not top 5, because we spoke about more. 16.
Yeah, like
17.
15, 16 of them. So it's in no way a top 10. It's like top 15,
it
16.
Isn't. No. But yes, that has been us discussing film trailers. I really hope you enjoyed it. As ever, links to all of our social medias and everything in the description. As mentioned before, next week, surprise episode on my part still, we will be discussing the newly released Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm sighing because I'm worried. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't worried at this point? Let's just face it.
No, tickets are booked. I'm seeing it on Wednesday night. I'm getting out at 11 o'clock, seeing it in IMAX. Please don't waste my time, IMAX. But yes, we will be discussing that for next week's episode. But as I say, thank you very much for listening. Really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to share, follow, subscribe, like, but literally anything you can do to support this podcast and get it out there.
That'd be good.
Yeah, it would be greatly appreciated. And thank you very much for listening. And until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Ta-ra.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.